Hi guys, the date is the 26th of April 2026 and I just moved out of my parents' house. So I'm 18 years old and I work and now I'm going to be I'm aiming to be fully independent and responsible for myself. And I think this is like a really big step in my journey just because like now everything after this is a result of the decisions I make, like it's not about the decisions my parents make anymore or my family. It's really um I got to take responsibility for everything, I got to take responsibility for keeping things clean and eating enough and staying healthy and keeping my job and doing my job and like I don't know. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, and the kind of reason I haven't done it up till now is because being in my family provided a real safety net. Um, like I always had their support if I messed up, and I there was always food on the table and everything like that. But if you stay in your comfort zone, there's no growth. So I had to leave. And it got to the point where, I knew I had to leave, but I didn't have enough money. And so right now I'm living paycheck to paycheck. But, you never leave at the perfect time. You leave at the time when, it's scarier to stay the same than it is to change, That's a quote. But like it just became too much staying at home, I was ready to move up. I was ready to become responsible for myself, and I also didn't like being responsible for other people's stuff. So I decided, time to move out of the house and kind of just went on the marketplace and found a place, or actually found a bunch of places and did a bunch of visits around my town, and then moved into one a week later. It's kind of anticlimactic now that I'm in the house and I've done it, but it's I think the change is going to happen slowly, but it's going to be a really good and a lot for the better, because now instead of my environment shaping me, I can shape my environment, and I won't have to take responsibility for other people's stuff anymore. I'll obviously have to take on more responsibility for my own stuff, but the thing about like taking responsibility for my stuff versus other people's is I kind of just take it head on when it's my stuff, but when it's other people's, it's more of a burden, and it brings the question, should I be taking this on? Um, and I think taking responsibility and working with other people is a skill I want to develop later in life. But where I'm at right now, I'd like to become it, have the ability to be responsible for myself. And I think that was a big problem with the living with the parents, was I wasn't responsible for myself, so I obviously didn't always clean up after myself and do stuff like that. So they blame me for that, and in turn they load more responsibility on top of me to make up for that, and it was like this whole weird cycle. Um, and just getting older, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move out, and yeah, so um it's gonna be interesting, how living with not as much of a safety net, and I hope my family will respect my independence, which I've put down some pretty strict boundaries. So yeah, um, but yeah, like giving up the safety net, it's not easy to do, and you're not gonna want to do it because logic will say not to. If I stay at home and work, I will make more money than if I spend a bunch of money a week being able to stay in this house. But you know, like things like having independence and becoming responsible for yourself are traits that lead to growth that is invaluable. And so you have to look at not is it logically worth leaving the safety net? You gotta look at, is it time for me to leave the safety net? Can I have any more growth while I'm in this safety net? And sometimes it's yes. Sometimes, like I can say living at home and like maybe go on a trip with some friends and maybe have some growth that way. And it's not all about growth, but growth is a big part. And that's a big part of my decision of deciding to leave. But it's the same where it's like it just becomes unbearable. And maybe it becomes unbearable and that's externalized in different ways. Like you could get in more fights with your parents, you could stop doing as much work at home, stop trying to take responsibility for other people's. And instead of blame, you should never blame yourself for things like that. You should look at the reason behind why they're happening. And when I did that, it was because I was taking responsibility for things that weren't mine, and I blamed my parents for that. And in turn, it made me upset them on the inside. But now that I've left the house, I think the change I'm going to start seeing is I'm not going to be mad at them anymore. Like when I go to visit them, I'm not going to have that inner kind of upset towards them. It's just going to be like an actual parent-kid relationship because, I think that's the reason a lot of people move out when they're getting older. And yeah. But yeah, pretty big step. And yeah. I think that's all I really wanted to cover off, but yeah. Thanks for watching. That's the end of the video.